Have you ever walked into a house so big, so quiet, and so full of sorrow that it felt like the walls themselves were whispering secrets? That's exactly what I felt the day I stepped into Daniel's home. My name is Ava. I was only 23 years old, and I needed a job badly. When I saw an ad in the newspaper looking for a live-in housekeeper, I didn't think twice. It said a man needed help caring for his 2 young children. The family was wealthy, so I figured it might be a good opportunity for me. I had no idea how much that decision was about to change my entire life. I arrived at the house and felt my nerves creep in immediately. The place was massive, like something pulled straight out of a movie. I rang the bell, and after a moment, a tall man opened the door. His name was Daniel. He had dark hair, tired eyes, and a face that never seemed to soften. He didn't smile. He asked if I was there for the housekeeping job, and I said yes. He introduced himself and invited me inside. As he showed me around, I noticed the house was filled with expensive things, yet it felt cold and empty. Something about it made me feel both curious and strangely sad. While Daniel walked me through the rooms, I noticed photographs on the walls of a beautiful woman. She looked like royalty, but she never smiled in a single picture. Her eyes seemed heavy with pain. I later learned her name was Claire, Daniel's wife, who had passed away the year before. Then I met the children, Noah and Ivy, 7-year-old twins. They were unusually quiet and barely spoke. When Daniel introduced me, they said nothing at all. The silence in that house was thick, like a fog that settled over everything. Daniel told me their mother had died in a car accident. It was clear this house needed more than cleaning. It needed warmth, laughter, and life again. I needed the money, so I told Daniel I would take the job. I moved into a small room in the house and began working every single day. I cleaned, cooked, washed dishes, and looked after the children. Slowly, Noah and Ivy started to get used to me, but they still rarely laughed or spoke much. Their sadness ran deep, and I felt it in every quiet corner of that home. Daniel stayed busy, spending most of his time locked away in his office. He didn't talk much and usually ate alone. He rarely shared anything personal. Still, I did my best every day. Days turned into weeks. One evening, I witnessed something remarkable. Noah and Ivy were drawing together and laughing, really laughing. It was the first time I had heard that sound in the house. I turned around and saw Daniel standing in the doorway, watching us. His expression looked different. "They haven't laughed like that in a long time," he said quietly. My heart skipped. It was the first time he had shared anything personal with me. I felt like I had finally done something right. Things slowly began to shift. One Tuesday, a woman arrived at the house dressed in elegant clothing. Her name was Vanessa, Claire's older sister. She was cold from the moment she walked in, and I could tell instantly that she didn't like me. She studied me closely and told Daniel I was far too friendly with the children. She insisted they needed strict rules, not games and giggling. I felt uneasy around her right away. Later that same day, Vanessa walked into the kitchen while I was washing dishes. "Do you think you can replace my sister?" she asked. I quickly told her no, that I was simply the housekeeper. She laughed and said something that caught me off guard. She told me Daniel was never truly happy with Claire, that he was distant and always buried in work, and that Claire had felt terribly alone in that house. Vanessa said Daniel wasn't capable of loving anyone, and that I should remember that. Her words stayed with me long after she left. After that day, Vanessa started visiting more often. She always made me feel small and unwelcome. I tried to ignore her, but it wasn't easy. One afternoon, she stood in the living room in front of everyone and said, "These children need a real mother, not just some girl who plays with them." Her words cut deep. But then Daniel spoke up. "Ava is wonderful with my children. She makes them happy, and that's enough," he said. I was stunned. It was the first time he had ever defended me. From that moment on, Daniel looked at me differently. I was no longer just the housekeeper in his eyes. I wasn't sure how to feel, but something warm settled in my chest. Vanessa stormed out of the room, and Daniel stayed behind. He looked into my eyes and said, "You're a miracle, Ava." Then he leaned in and kissed me gently. When he pulled back, we just stood there, staring at each other. It wasn't just a moment, it was something real. I felt something I had never felt before, and I knew my life had taken a completely new direction. Next morning, Vanessa showed up unannounced. She walked in demanding to know where Daniel was. Just then he stepped out of his office and smiled at me. Vanessa saw it instantly. Her face twisted with shock as she turned to me and snapped, What is going on here? What have you done to him? Daniel tried to stop her, but she came closer and shouted, Do you think you can steal my sister's husband in her own house? You're nothing but a gold digger. Her words tore right through me. I felt humiliated. She insisted Daniel was still grieving and that I was taking advantage of him. I looked at Daniel and said, I'm so sorry. I'll pack my things. I ran upstairs with tears streaming down my face, feeling confused and ashamed, never wanting to cause anyone pain. Then the door opened and Daniel walked in. He looked worried and sat down beside me. Don't listen to her, he said. I cried and told him she was right, that I was only the housekeeper. Daniel took my hand and said, No, Ava, my life before you arrived was the real mistake. Vanessa was right about one thing, my marriage wasn't happy. Claire and I were distant long before she passed. When she died, I didn't just lose my wife, I lost hope of ever having a happy family again. But you brought that back. You brought laughter and light into this house. That kiss wasn't a mistake, Ava. It was the beginning of something new. I love you. Please don't leave. 6 months passed and everything changed. The house was no longer cold or silent. It was full of life, joy, and laughter. Vanessa stopped visiting altogether. My small room became a guest room, and I moved into the master bedroom with Daniel. Noah and Ivy laughed constantly now and talked more than ever. They started calling me Mom. Daniel was no longer the grieving man I had first met. His eyes, once heavy with pain, were now filled with love. He smiled often and spent his evenings with us instead of hiding in his office. We had become a real family. One morning, Daniel took my hand and asked, Are you happy, Ava? I looked around at our beautiful home, at the man beside me, and thought of the children I had grown to love with my whole heart. Yes, I said, more than I ever dreamed possible. I came here looking for a job. I just wanted to earn money and survive. Instead, I found something so much bigger. I found a home. I found love. I found a family. Life gave me something I never expected, a second chance, turning a young woman who simply needed work into a mother of 2 and the partner of a kind, loving man. It changed the house. It changed Daniel. It changed me. It all began with a newspaper ad, and now I was about to become Daniel's wife. This story isn't just about love. It's about healing. It's about how love can grow even in silence, in sorrow, in the places no one expects it to bloom. It's about how kindness has the power to mend broken hearts. If this story touched you, remember, sometimes life leads us exactly where we're meant to be, even when it feels wrong at first. Let this be a reminder that love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers softly and waits patiently for someone to listen.